We welcome you to the IWA Webinar, Innovative Nature-Based Solutions for Reliable Water Supply and Resilient Catchments. This webinar is being organized by Alliance for Water-Sensitive Urban Design and Planning. My name is Suresh Rohila. I would be the moderator for this webinar, along with my colleague, Mariam Imani. And I have two eminent panelists today, Tom Palmer and Lokendra Thakkar. I would be introducing these other panelists later. With regards to the housekeeping rules for today's webinar, I would like to say that the recording will be made available on demand and on the IWA Connect Plus platform, as well as IWA Network website, with the presentation slides and other information. The speakers today are responsible for securing the copyright permissions for any work that will present, of which they are not legal copyright holder. The opinions, hypotheses, conclusions, or recommendations contained in presentation and other materials are the sole responsibility of the speakers and do not reflect IWA's opinion. With regard to the webinar controls and question and answer system, you will look at the panel below. There is a chat box. Please use this for general requests and for interactive activities. For question and answers, please use the Q&A box only. Please use this to send questions to the panelists. We will only answer these questions during the discussions and pick from there other questions to be taken up live. Next. Today's agenda is that we would be starting off the seminar with introduction by Mariam Imani. But before that, I would like to give you a background about myself. I'm Suresh Rohila. I am Associate Professor at the University of Bradford, and I have over 30 years of experience working in the area of water-sensitive design and planning. I'm an active member of International Water Association and also a managing committee member of the Alliance for Water-Sensitive Design and Planning. I would like to introduce Mariam Imani, who is the co-moderator for this session today. And Mariam is an associate professor of water systems engineering at Anglia Ruskin University. She is today the co-moderator, and Mariam is chair for the managing committee of Alliance on Water for Water-Sensitive Urban Design and Planning. We have Mariam, to you.
Thank you, Suresh. Good day, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon from wherever you're joining us. Welcome to this webinar. As Suresh mentioned, I'm Mariam Imani, Associate Professor of Water Systems Engineering at Anglia Ruskin University, Essex in the UK. I give you a couple of slides and a couple of minutes of your time to just introduce our group or our working group. As Suresh mentioned, the name is Alliance for Water Sensitive Design and Planning, WSDP, Brookine, and I'll get back to that Brookine part. The group is built on years of collaboration among some core members of this group that focused on nature-based solutions, blue-green infrastructure, sustainable drainage system, so on and so forth, with the vision to promote and enhance urban and community resilience or better climate adaptation due to its importance globally. And initially established as a partnership between Brazil, UK, and India. That's where Brookine stands for. But the group since then has expanded globally, and it was officially launched over a year ago on IWA Connect. The group believes in the multidisciplinarity nature of nature-based solutions or blue-green infrastructures, and therefore our members coming from different disciplines, different backgrounds, and even members that maybe IWA is not primarily the platform, but they joined IWA and this group to collaborate. This is a global platform aimed at fostering collaboration, dialogue, knowledge exchange, best practices between global North and global South, as well as the South and South. We recognize the importance of learning from each other, and we are committed to supporting this initiative to drive a real impact in this context. Capacity building and support for young professionals or young water professionals have been always at the heart of our collaboration, and they have played a key part in it. And we have been engaged in a wide range of activities since its creation, including research projects, workshops, webinars, joint conferences, joint publications, winter and summer schools, and that all designed to build capacity and strengthen our network and what we had envisioned. So therefore, as you can see, there is a barcode here. If you can scan and visit the page. Of course, you need to be an IWA Connect member to be able to do that. Next slide, please. These are the committee, the core members, the team that founded this group, and since then expanded. As you can see, we're coming from different backgrounds, different universities around the globe, Brazil, UK, and also India. I have put the two contacts, myself and Suresh, over there. We welcome anybody who is interested, who is in this space from any background, any discipline that you come, but you are involved and interested in nature-based solutions. Please get in touch, and we're looking forward to collaborate with you and hear about your activities and your research in this space. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maria. Thanks, people, for the inputs. And I see very interesting, diverse professionals who have joined us today. And I believe it also becomes very important. I see there were 73% of people who were joining were from engineering background. So with this background, as well as the importance of nature-based solutions, I would invite the first speaker of the webinar today, Tom Palmer, who will be talking about Beyond Catchment to Coast, making nature-based solutions and innovation the norm. Tom has over 15 years of experience working at local authorities to deliver flood risk management responsibilities, from undertaking enforcement and asset inspections to managing multi-million-pound projects. In his current role at Essex County Council, Tom leads delivery of the Flooding Capital Program, which reduces risk by focusing on innovation, partnership, working, and providing multiple benefits. Tom, to you.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Suresh, or well, I should say good afternoon and good evening too, as well. So we've got quite a global audience here, which is excellent to see. So yes, as Suresh mentioned, I'm going to talk to you about a project I was previously involved in. So this isn't in my current role, but I moved 3 weeks ago to my current role, having worked in this Catchment to Coast project, which is a very interesting and exciting project. Trying lots of new and innovative things. And yeah, I'm now looking to put those into the work I'm doing now. Excellent, there we go. So to give you a bit of background to the Catchment to Coast project. So in the UK in 2020, DEFRA, who kind of hold the strategic kind of national control of kind of flood risk management and that side of things, they updated their flood and coastal erosion risk management strategy. They love an acronym, so there'll be a few of those, which put more of a focus on resilience rather than protection. So historically, it's been very focused on the kind of the hard and fast, very binary measures to stop flooding to people. And given how climate change is and the world we live in, we all know that that is not really appropriate. You can't always stop flooding. There will always be a time when the water could go over the top of defences and things. So very thankfully, they switched that to a language of resilience, protection, recovery, and being prepared and kind of recovering quicker, which is really good. So as part of that, they made some funding available, £200 million, and they offered it out to everyone to put an expression of interest in, and they picked 25 projects nationally to go and trial innovative measures to gather learning and to see what we could do to kind of make policy and funding streams even better into the future. So Southend, where I used to work, which is, if you imagine the UK and London, if you go a bit east and then north, so north of the Thames is where Essex and Southend and Thurrock sit. So Southend is a city right in that little corner, and then Thurrock is a very developed area a bit towards London. So historically, Essex has got a lot of funding to do measures because they're more cost beneficial in Essex. There's more land, there's more space, whereas Thurrock and Southend, being more urbanised, they didn't historically get much funding because there just wasn't the space to do it. Things were very, very expensive. The catchments around there are very, very flashy. Lots of small catchments, very urbanized, as I said, so very quick runoff, very quick to flood. And yeah, lots of issues with sewers as well, and also multi-source flooding, so kind of tide locking and things like that. So where we get heavy rain, high tides, and the sewers can't take it, and there's lots of flooding because of that. Also, just to add a few problems to the mix, there's lots of historic landfills. Back in the day, people thought it was a good idea to make seawalls out of waste. So we've got a few of those in the area, and obviously they present a huge risk to the environment should they erode, and they would never get any funding because there weren't any properties there. So we were keen to look at that as well. And again, just to add things to the mix, the east of England is the driest area of the country, gets on average 540 millimetres of rain per year, so which is about the same as Malta and kind of mainland Australia, I believe, and the national UK average is about 1,200 millimetres of rain, so very, very water stressed. So we were, obviously you can probably guess, we were successful. We were given some money as part of the 25 projects, and what we did, so you can see the south of Essex there, and that's the Thames. We wanted to, so catchment to coast, the clue is in the name. We wanted to look at how small measures spread across the catchment could be implemented to reduce flood risk, reduce coastal erosion, and improve drought tolerance across an area. So we picked 16 sites, lots of back and forth with landowners, and those have changed since the kind of initial expression of interest. And they're split into kind of upper, middle and lower based on the types of measures being put in. So upper is very much focused on farmland and kind of rural areas at the top of the catchment. The green is the mid catchment, which is all about kind of retrofitting measures and protecting properties. And then the yellow is the coastal measures, which is about kind of the lower catchment and also kind of coastal defence as well. A huge range of measures across that, and I'll come into a bit more detail of that. And also a very big project in terms of partners. You can see our pictures there. I've put 17, I think there's probably more than that actually, but huge range from local authorities, lead local flood authorities, water companies, sewer companies, universities, consultants, all kinds of people. So yeah, really, really good, strong partnership there. So I kind of hinted a bit earlier that this project is very much focused on innovation and learning. So learning is obviously linked to monitoring. So gathering lots and lots of data. So to get the money, we had to demonstrate that every site had something innovative. And that doesn't necessarily mean a new thing that is built. It can be all about the process. It could be about a measure, or it could be a new combination of the measures, or an existing measure in a new location sort of thing. So again, the next slide, we'll go into that in a bit more detail. And yeah, very much heavily focused on gathering data and learning. So whilst we normally, to get money, we have to demonstrate the benefits up front, this project was the other way around. We were able to go and build things and then learn afterwards. So we could get things wrong, which is very unusual and quite refreshing, to be honest. Obviously a lot of work to do modelling and things like that to get money up front normally. And there's a list there that kind of includes the monitoring we're doing. So it's all kinds of kind of quantitative and qualitative parameters, from weather, flow rates in channels, kind of coastal measurements and like tidal flow rates and things like that, wave heights, winds, directions. Also looking at water quality a lot. So having sensors in channel that give very regular data, and also doing sampling. In the woods, we're doing soil moisture, and also in some of the suds, we're doing that as well, and kind of through fall. We've got lots of ecology and biodiversity net gain baselines. And we also developed a tool called the Situation Room, which I won't go into now, but it's kind of a community engagement tool that raises awareness of SUDs and nature-based solutions, and gets people's opinions on them, which is really useful for us in terms of delivering them, so we can find out what people don't like about things, but also what they do like and how willing they are to have them in their area. And it also it's very clever in kind of steering people's behavior, or what we're kind of seeing that from the data is that the way we're presenting those sorts of solutions highlights the benefits and the changes people can make themselves. So like things like putting water butts in and rain gardens on their own properties to help reduce flood risk and reduce pressures on surface water sewers and things. So okay, so this I will go through very quickly. The slide pack will come out and you can all read this at your own discretion. But it just gives you a bit of a flavour for the sites, the measures and the kind of the innovation. So lots of things in the upper catchment are around kind of suds, leaky dams, and we're using mycelium a lot to see how that can filter water and kind of provide benefits. The mid catchment is quite a lot around capturing highway runoff, treating it using mycelium, suds, filters, all kinds of things, and then reusing it. So we're hoping to feed an allotment some highway runoff if the water quality is appropriate enough. Obviously, we appreciate people maybe growing food, so we'll still offer it with a freshwater supply, but that's not been done before. And yeah, looking to retrofit suds in such a way that the landscaping manages the water, but also creates a better environment for people, improves local amenity as well. And then the coastal aspects are quite focused on, so again, we've got some to do with flood warning beacons, where there's the tide locking, kind of direct protection to coastal frontages, and also reinstating and re-encouraging, I suppose, salt marsh to grow too. And I'll go through a few examples to highlight some of those now. Actually, if that works, there it does. So the first example, so I say we, Southend bought a house off the open market. It was part of the kind of the social housing team, and what they were doing was retrofitting it in terms of energy efficiency, and they put external wall insulation on. They had an air source heat pump, solar panels. They went to town on it, and it's I'm told it's in the 0.2% most energy efficient houses in the country, which is great. And we got wind of this and said, can we jump in and do some water things, please? And they thankfully gladly accepted. So we put in some highway suds, retrofit those outside the property. So the highway runoff there goes into these things called hydrorocks, which are basically like great sponges. So the water goes into those and it allows capillary action. So the plants above it can drink the water up kind of through this hydrorock, which means they need less watering. We also put a lot of climate resilient plants in there again, so they need less watering and they're a bit more resilient. We put some planters in the gardens, you can just see from that top middle picture, and they're all fed from the roof. And then the overflows go into the paving, which is 100% permeable, and it's got hydrorocks under there as well. And it can take 50% of the annual rainfall in one go. That's how much storage there is in the permeable paving and hydrorocks underneath, which is quite significant. And then it all infiltrates into the ground. What else have we got? So we put a water butt in, so that takes the back part of the roof and the overflow from the internal water recycling unit, which I'll come to a second. We remove the outside tap as well, because quite frankly, it's a bit ridiculous that you can just have an unlimited freshwater supply to water your garden. That should not be the first choice. So you have to use the water butt now. And then the internal water recycling unit, which is called a hydroloop, you can see from the bottom left picture, it's not the best picture in the world, but that takes the water from the upstairs bathroom, the bath and the upstairs sink, and also the washing machine downstairs in the kitchen. So that's in the kitchen with it. It cleanses it, filters it, it's got UV filters and things, and then it can feed it back into the washing machine and also into the toilet to allow water flushing. So there's a save on freshwater use there and also less water going into the surface water sewer. And we put a flow restrictor, 40% onto the internal freshwater supply to reduce usage. It has no impact on the pressure on the shower or anything, but it does use less water. So now no water goes into the surface water sewer there now, whereas it did previously. So that work was finished actually about a year ago, and a family moved in, and we're just kind of collecting the data still and analysing that to see the impacts, because we appreciate some of these measures probably aren't going to be cost effective at the moment, but that was all part of the trial and testing, which allowed us to put them in, see how they work, and then use that data to kind of provide advice to residents who might want to be looking to put similar measures in. So the second example, so this is where we are capturing water from kind of a highway medium. You can see it in the bottom left picture. There's a nice grassed area between the road, and then south of that, you can just see the map there. You can make that bigger when you get the slides. To have a look is an allotment which floods quite regularly. So what we're doing here is we're going to put some suds and some swales into the middle of the road, plant them up, put mycelium in kind of Hessian bags, and we're also going to have some UV filters, some slow sand filters, charcoal filters, and capture it in some huge tanks. We've got 100,000 litres of storage. What we're going to do is obviously test it first, but then the goal is to feed that into the allotments for water reuse. So reducing flood risk, but also providing hopefully an appropriate water supply for people to use on their plants. We've also got Ruskin Road, which is a little bit similar in that we are daylighting an existing surface water sewer in an area that floods very regularly already. So these are the two photos on the right. There's an existing bit of woodland there that's just kind of been left because it gets very boggy, and we're going to formalise that into some wet woodland to create some nice habitat. And the goal is by daylighting the sewer and putting in the similar sorts of treatment measures as to Manchester Drive, we're going to feed a new community garden. So we're going to put that around an existing play area that we're going to kind of refresh, so that the water has got some usage as well. So again, it's taking it out of the system basically, which reduces the flood risk, and also the parks team can use that as well. That's the goal there. So now onto a kind of a coastal one. So we've down at Two Tree Island, which is the top picture you've got there. That is well, it's just off the top actually, that's most of the salt marsh. That is pretty much all a historic landfill. It doesn't get any money for protection, and it's just kind of there, so it's obviously quite at risk. And what we are doing is we are looking to regenerate the salt marsh that's there already, because it has retreated, and we have seen that through aerial photography and historic mapping. And part of that is because there's a lot of algal growth. So upstream of that, which is to the, let me get this right, the west of the top picture, is Benfleet Creek Sewage Treatment Works, which is the bottom left picture. They discharge, well, that discharges quite a lot of material into the creek further up. So water quality is a significant issue here. It is in the wider Thames, so there's obviously bigger factors there as well, bigger processes going on. But from the testing we've done, we're quite confident that that is a primary source of kind of material that's causing the algae to grow. So what we're doing at the sewage treatment works is we are putting in 12 wetlands, 3 lots of 4 with different measures in, so we can test them. That's going on the surface water system overflow, which I'm told is the first in the country. Lots have been done on the foul overflow, but this is purely the surface water, so taking the highway runoff. And we're putting those wetlands on to treat that water and putting some very comprehensive water quality testing on that to see, to measure the benefits. And the goal is that will help downstream improving the water quality, where we're putting in this coir and bezi matting, I'm told it's pronounced, which is it's made of potato starch, the bezi matting. What it does, you pin it down with wooden stakes. It provides a higher area above the kind of the what is the bed, I suppose, which allows the salt marsh to expand more easily, and then it biodegrades away, leaving the salt marsh. So we're putting a lot of that in. There's lots of those kind of grids of 4 there, and some very comprehensive monitoring on those to see what's going on. And we're also putting in some concrete blocks on the frontage, which have got lots of nooks and crannies and kind of pools on them to improve biodiversity too, because we've got to put something on the frontage that gives that kind of very hard protection too. So we're seeing how all of those add together to reduce coastal erosion and improve water quality. So I'm nearing the end now. So that was my old job. One of the things I was doing in my old job. Very exciting, very interesting project. Very good to get some money to go and try some things, and also work with lots of different people and get thoughts and ideas. Because having now moved to Essex County Council, I'm back to another lead local flood authority, and our roles and responsibilities around flooding are quite limited, as is the kind of general setup in the UK when it comes to legislation. So we do a lot of the above, the top 2 pictures, which are focusing on protecting numbers of properties, which involves usually digging great big basins, and that's a bit boring. to be honest. We can do better than that. Yes, it gets the flood benefits, but we put a few trees and things in, and we don't really get the biodiversity benefits at all. There's minimal amenity benefits, nothing to do with kind of heat, air quality, water quality, anything like that, really. So I am now bringing the philosophies, I suppose, of Catchment to Coast and to this program, to try and do some new things. And as it says, take more risks, because being a pilot project, as Catchment to Coast was, it was able to take risks. And kind of now moving to the job limit now, people are less keen to do that. And that's one of the big issues we have in terms of disconnects between kind of these exciting pilot projects and then mainstreaming things, is that people still aren't quite willing to kind of spend the money doing these things. But we all know that, you know, there's a huge opportunity to provide multiple benefits. That scheme above there's just been finished. They could have captured water there for reuse by the parks team. They could have put some wetlands in. They could have done all sorts of things there. So that's the change I'm going to hopefully make. We have a lot of strategies around water. So the too much, the not enough. Also the local nature recovery strategy, which is all about biodiversity and green infrastructure. So I'm looking to bring that in, and also continue working with a lot of the partners that you saw before, getting all their different opinions and thoughts, and kind of giving all of the multiple benefits an equal weighting when considering a scheme that looks at flooding. Because water, you know, you shouldn't just look at water in terms of flooding. There's all different sides of it as well, which comes to the holistic water management. So yeah, the legislation sets things up as in very siloed ways. So different organisations look at different things in different stages, and we're slowly breaking those down and overlapping a lot better. And lots of partners are doing the same as well, which is really good to see. So Anglian Water, who do our surface water sewers and foul sewers, also Essex and Suffolk Water, who do the drinking water, and the Environment Agency, who do the main rivers. We're all kind of speaking to each other a lot better and kind of really seeing those overlaps. And yeah, getting efficiencies more than anything. It's much better value for money working together, and we get better projects at the end of it too. So still early days. As I said, this is week 3 or 4 for me in my new role, so hopefully some good things to come. But that's the direction we're heading in Essex going forwards. I think that is it from me. So yeah, got my contact details there if anyone wants to ask any questions afterwards, but I've seen a few coming in the Q&A, which we'll probably come to later. So back to you, Suresh.
Thank you, Tom, for this interesting presentation. There's quite a lot happening in Essex County Council, so it was a very good presentation. I enjoyed, and I'm sure that I will get a chance to visit sometime. But in the meantime, I take this opportunity to go to the next panelist. I would like to invite Lokendra Thakkar. He would be talking about living with lakes, challenges, efforts, and opportunities. Lokendra is an environmental planner, a development communicator with over 30 years of experience in environmental policy related issues of biodiversity planning, environmental policy, and climate change. In his current role, as he's working on wetland conservation as the director in the Madhya Pradesh State Wetland Authority in India. So Lokendra, to you.
Thank you, Suresh, and thank you, IWA, for inviting me to share my thoughts. And I'm, as Suresh has introduced, I'm speaking from Bhopal, which is a city in the central province of the India. So I'll just start my presentation. I'll be presenting a case study of a very big lake, the Bhoj wetland that we had conserved in 1995 to 2004. So a very brief case study of that particular project. Thank you. So this is my presentation sequence. I will talk briefly about what wetlands are, what countries, India's efforts to conserve the wetlands, wetland, and finally, what are the challenges and opportunities for us. Next slide, please. So, as you know, 2nd Feb, coming 2nd Feb, there is an International Wetlands Day. And wetlands are very important ecosystems, as everybody understands, and they cover about 6% of Earth's land, but 40% of plant and animal species live or breed in wetlands. but they are most threatened wetlands. I am not too aware about the other parts of the world, but in our country, we are so much, endowed with these aquatic wetland ecosystems, but they are under severe threat. I can speak about my state, and we have about more than 500,000 wetlands in the state, but they are under severe threats. 35% of the world's wetlands have been lost since 1970. This is what the Ramsar Convention is reporting, and they are disappearing very fast, faster than forest. And but as you know, the wetlands are also a very important sink of carbon, as good as forest. But forest, are protected, but wetlands are somehow not receiving that kind of attention. So threats to wetland will have an adverse impact on 40% of the world's flora and fauna and live or breed in wetlands. Next, please. So India, despite these challenges that I discussed, India has a very robust and very strong regulatory framework for conservation of wetlands. And recently, as in 2017, under the Environment Protection Act, Government of India has come up with wetland rules. And as India, I'm saying about 700,000 wetlands are there, which are bigger than the size of 2.2 hectares. And these wetlands are covering about 4.5% of country's geographical area. As per the recent order of the Government of Madhya Pradesh, Government of India, and the Supreme Court, all these wetlands have to be ground marketed. So this is one challenge that we are now facing, that all these about 700,000 wetlands have to be ground truth using all these spatial geotechnologies and also have to be demarcated on site. India has about 85 wetlands as Ramsar sites, and we are preparing the health cards of each and every wetlands. And there is also a massive program of making community involved into wetland conservation and making them wetland friends. Next, please. So, as I said, India has a wetland rules in 2017. These rules, under these rules, each and every state, there is what we call the state wetland authorities have been constituted, and these authorities have been mandated to prepare the inventory of the wetlands and also prepare the list of wetlands which need to be notified as per rules. And the principle of wise use as enshrined in the Ramsar Convention has to be followed in order to conserve these wetlands. Next slide, please. So the city of Bhopal, which wetland that I'm going to talk about, Bhopal is, as I said, is capital city of Madhya Pradesh, which is heart of incredible India. Often it is said that Bhopal is made by women and ruined by man. There are many reasons for it, but one very important reason is the Bhopal gas tragedy that took place in 1984 in the midnight of 2nd and 3rd December in 1984. And Bhopal is often, somehow known for these wrong reasons, that this urine carbide gas leak had happened and thousands of people had lost their lives. But Bhopal over the years have come up, and that tragedy is far behind. And Bhopal has one of the beautiful capital city in the country, with about 2.5 million people living in the city. And Bhopal is also known as what we call the city of lakes, with 20 plus wetlands dotting the city in all the nook and corners. Bhopal was supposed to get recently what we call the very favorite city to get the wetland city accreditation from Ramsar Convention, but somehow we missed this opportunity for reasons beyond our control. But Bhopal is one of the city in the country which is hosting a lot of wetlands, and one of the biggest wetland of Asia in terms of its size is in Bhopal. Next, please. So the wetland that I'm going to talk about is what we call the Bhoj wetland, which is named after a king who constructed, is a man-made wetland, which was constructed in 11th century, something around 1340 years before. And this wetland is what we call the lifeline of the city of Bhopal. This is the first Ramsar site also, incidentally, though it was constructed in 11th century, but it has now acquired all the natural characteristics. It has about 360 square kilometer of catchments and about 32 to 38 square kilometers of water spread. Major part of the catchment is rural, and some of its catchment is also urban. This wetland is also a principal source of potable water for the 40% of the city, which comes out to be around 500,000 people, which depend solely on this wetland for their daily drinking water supply. It is very, very rich in terms of providing economic value, and also it's quite rich in terms of floral, informal, aquatic, and terrestrial biodiversity. So, on one side, we are very fortunate to have such a huge lake in our city, bang in the center of the city. But there are various challenges to conserve this wetland. And there are competing demands in terms of its catchment and the water resources. And there are many, stakeholders which have competing demands and also overlapping concerns. There are about 10 to 11 government departments which are drawing direct benefits, from the wetland. And there are people and communities which are drawing benefits, maybe informally or formally. Despite having such a big project, still we have lots of sources of pollution which is coming directly into the lake. There is also encroachment by people or maybe by some institutions within the 50 meters of the high flood level. The agricultural runoff still coming from various catchment areas where farmers are practicing conventional farming, and the runoff comes to the wetland. There is reporting of the weed infestation. What we need is regular water quality. We need information sharing. We need capacity building and training for frontline staff, and also massive mass awareness and public education. So these are current challenges, and in the next slide, I'll speak about what has been done in order to address these challenges. So if you look at the map of this wetland, as you can see, the dark blue, light blue color is the actual water spread, but this entire area, this is the wetland boundary, and this is the catchments. So the catchment is divided into two things. As you see, from the north side is the urban, and the south and east side is the rural catchment. And in rural catchments, we have issues of water quality and quantity. The agriculture practices, as I said, still very, very conventional. That means you use high, use of fertilizers and chemicals. And there's encroachment in the rural catchments. And there is a huge, because of the, economic value this wetland provides, the land cost has gone up, severely. And there is a land use changes happening from agriculture to more residential and institutional. In urban areas, the water quality is the biggest problem because lots of urban sewage finds entry into the lake. And there is people who are washing the clothes, so lots of laundry work is going on close to the wetlands. Tourism is often cited as the, boon for wetland conservation and creating livelihoods, but tourism can also have its negative effects, and that we are, facing in that negative side of tourism also in the wetland. And encroachment in urban areas is also an issue. This is in the catchments, but if you look at the water spreads, water sport, because it's a huge lake with 38 square kilometers of water spread, so a lot of water sports activities are happening. Boating and cruise, although the cruise has stopped running because of an government and legal court's order, the cruise has stopped running. But boating, fishing, and cultivation of chestnuts and lotus, and pollution coming from the neighboring colonies and habitats. These are some of the challenges of the huge wetland that we are still facing. Next slide, please. So in order to address these challenges, Japanese Bank for International Cooperation, a project was designed in 1995 with about $30 million support in 1995. And this project started in April 95 to June 2004. So we had a massive program of desilting and dredging of lakes. We created taken the task of deepening and widening of these spill channels. Massive afforestation was done in the catchments of the upper lake. both in rural and urban areas, created lots of buffer zones. We constructed lots of check dams and silt traps. We constructed garden drains to trap the direct sewage that is coming to the lakes, and sort of created lots of sewage treatment plants and sewage pump houses to avoid any direct entry of the raw sewage coming to the lakes. Massive program for solid waste management was launched. There was a lot of weed infestation, which because of this program, we had to organize a de-weeding program. We set up, state-of-the-art water quality labs to monitor the water quality. Lots of chlorine fountains and ozonizers were sort of, introduced in the lake. And we encouraged the farmers, the neighboring farmers, adjacent to the water spread area and the catchments for organic farming for improved livelihoods. So these all initiatives were taken in the period from 1995 to 2004. And they have resulted in a very positive way. And all the pictures that I'm using in my slide is the current pictures of the quality of water that you can see. It's very clean and very, very, very sort of pure kind of water. It is, as per our own standards, it is classified as A category, which means that it can be used for drinking purpose without much treatment. Next, please. I just want to spend a few minutes on this slide. So organic farming, which is very, very important for us. And I want to connect this particular slide with the Union Carbide, because Carbide factory was manufacturing here in Bhopal pesticides. And to answer this, mighty carbides manufacturing pesticides, we had to give our humble answer to them by converting into the organic farming. And we started this campaign in the catchments of Bhuj wetland, that farmers stay away from using chemical fertilizers and pesticides. So about 56 villages were taken up as a pilot, where we encouraged them to move away from conventional agriculture and practice organic farming. And the idea was that they not only stop polluting the water quality of the upper lake and the Bhuj wetland, but also get some price for their organic produce. So this is what we did. And just an answer, to mighty carbide, this organic farming. And this is being practiced in the catchments of the Bhuj wetland still today. Next, please. So this is one slide I'm showing that a massive community was mobilized. You can see lots of people when the lake was going dry and there was a scarcity of water. So thousands of people from the city were invited to come and sort of help in organizing and give contribute as labor to clean the lake and sort of take up the silt. And so I was talking about this community mobilization that we had organized, and thousands of people came on their own and offered their support to clean up this lake. And it helped in sort of establishing a very strong organic connect with the people and the wetlands. Next slide, please. So these are some of the major learnings, and especially when we talk about nature-based solutions and how wetlands can contribute towards to a nature-based solution. One of the lessons that despite spending so much of huge amount, taking loan from the Japan Bank of International Cooperation, about $30 million US in as early as 1995, the challenges have not stopped. So wetland conservation to me is not one-time activity. You have to continuously take conservation measures. One-time activity is okay because it is needed, but you can't stop it. It's an ongoing challenge, and we need to continue to take up conservation measures. The second most important thing that we learned from this project is that people's involvement is most important, very, very important. Unless we, in a sort of social cultural settings like India, especially in MP, if we don't involve people, we will not be able to meet this challenge. Because if the community gets involved, then many of the things get solved. This is also one more challenge that we learned, that wetlands can act as a bulwark against climate change. Currently, we are working study on understanding the carbon stock of all our 5 Ramsar sites in the state of Madhya Pradesh. The Bhoj wetland is one, but we have another 4 more sites in MP. And we have already commissioned studies to the very highly premier institutions of the country to carry out the carbon stock assessment. But carbon is one. Other than carbon, wetlands are very, very important solutions for nature-based solutions for mitigating impacts of climate change. So this is being realized time and again, that we need to conserve these precious wetland in order to also address the challenges posed by climate change. We need continuous attention, as I said, and documentation, record keeping is must. In India, as I said, within MP itself, we have more than 15,000 wetlands, which are bigger than the 2.5 hectares. Now, on the revenue records, there is hardly, a systematic way of documenting these wetlands on the revenue records at the district and council level, village level. So, in a recently Supreme Court order, we have to ground truth each and every wetland and also demarcate the boundaries. This is a landmark decision and direction from the apex court of the country. And right now, we all in the country are engaged and busy documenting, verifying, ground truthing, and demarcating these wetlands on ground, which is very, very important, because if wetlands are not recorded in the revenue records, then there is always chance of vanishing, losing these wetlands. And finally, we need to do economic evaluation of the ecosystem services, which is very, very must to realize their values. Currently, if you look at the economic survey of the country, and especially my own state, the contribution made by wetlands is not factored into. The reason being that wetlands are not considered as important as other nature-based ecosystems like forest. Therefore, I'm advocating, I'm doing a lobbying that wetlands also need to be given the same kind of importance. But before making my own argument, I need to carry out these kinds of studies to understand how much economic value these wetlands are contributing, so that we can also, ask for more money for their conservation. Currently, it is not happening. And there are no methods, in fact, systematic methods available for carrying out these kinds of economic evaluations of wetland ecosystems. So these are some of the major learnings that we have learned. And we are working towards conservation of these wetlands. Once there is a legal framework is there, so the policy and legal framework is available. What we need is to make them effective. I just want to come on to my next slide. I think this is the final slide that I want to talk about. Yes, this is one book that we all keep talking about in country. This is in Hindi. I know my international audience, global audience may not be able to understand what this title means, but it says that wetlands are still relevant. This is the title of the book, and it says that these wetlands did not come from from vacuum or from any space. All these wetlands. I would just like to read the English version of this. These hundreds and thousands of ponds had not emerged out of vacuum. They had behind them a unitary force of those who inspired them and tens of those who dug them out. These ones and tens then multiplied into hundreds and thousands. But for the last couple of centuries, sprang a new crop of semi-literates, people like me, I'm talking about myself, semi-literates, who turned these ones, tens, hundreds and thousands into a big city. So this is a very sad story that India had such a very, very strong connect of creating, conserving, cleaning, protecting these wetlands. But somehow in the last, maybe 100 odd years, that organic connect we lost. And therefore now all these challenges are coming, and we are finding engineering solutions to these biological systems. So my submission is that today also we have about 70% audience coming from engineering background. I have nothing against engineers. I would love to foresee their solutions, but these nature-based ecosystems from which we are expecting to have a nature-based solutions, we need to give them a chance to heal on their own, because nature has the immense power to heal on its own. Engineering solutions are welcome, but nature can heal on its own. So this is what I want to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lokendra. Very interesting project, and I have been to this city many times, and I have always been impressed by the quality of water still retained in the center of a big city. You can imagine, and where people talk about, the water spread or the water storage is reflection of the what happens in the catchment. So I would say that the pictures, if you are saying, are very recent pictures. They show an excellent still quality of water, which shows that there's a lot of efforts which have gone in. So I would like to thank you and congratulate for all the efforts. So I would ask my colleague Mariam, do you want to proceed with coordinating some questions?
Yeah. Absolutely. We have on the Q&A page, we've got around 10 questions. I think a question was answered by Tom. So I'll go in the order that the questions came. So I start with you, Tom. The questions that came through, I see that you have already responded to one of them. I'll come back to that one. So the first question and then the list is from Firouz Alam. I hope I pronounced it correctly. The question is about, Tom, social resilience. What did you do to build social resilience? This is an important topic for developing countries because it is the people who has to do the most of the things, not the government. And I'm aware of Catchment because a great deal of engagement you've had with a wide range of stakeholders. Can you slightly elaborate on that? Thank you.
Yeah, certainly, and thanks for that. It's a good question. I did kind of gloss over it a little bit, and it links to the next question down actually as well, which is about hydro citizenship, which is our kind of term we use in the project around kind of the social resilience side of things. So yeah, we've kind of touched on it. A lot of people involved in the project are kind of flood risk management people, engineers, so not our area of expertise at all. So we've got a few partners that are kind of well suited to kind of community engagement, and the situation room is one of the best tools that as I said, we developed it, and it was proving very useful and successful. We had over 200 people go along to it, and we're looking to do another round of it as well. So yeah, very important part of the project, and often forgotten in terms of kind of schemes. And the kind of the scale of the project, the spatial scale, and the different types of measures meant that this was much more of a focus for us on this one. So we did it two ways. The first is kind of the hydro citizenship. So we're wherever possible, wherever we're doing works on the ground, we're looking to go out and engage with people, explain why we're doing things, the benefits they provide, and then give people more information about things they can do themselves. So again, the retrofit house, where we put the measures in, we're going to be making leaflets that show the different kind of options, how much they cost benefit ratios, things like that, and trying to get that kind of engagement with people. So lots of kind of taking every opportunity we can through the project. So via the websites, the project website, which we're just updating, through the situation room, and the hydro citizenship as well. We're looking to make a platform online. So a couple of other sites we're retrofitting some smart water butts to streets. So hopefully hundreds of properties. It captures the rainwater off the roof. They can reuse it in the garden, and then it will discharge itself into the surface water sewer during dry periods, or to make space when rainfall is predicted. And what that will do is report data usage, very generalized. Obviously, you've got data protection things, very generalized on how people are using the water and saving water. And the goal there is to try and get the streets kind of competing, and then expand that to wider areas, so people can say, oh, I've just done this with my water, but I've saved so much water, and make it a bit bigger than that, and hopefully get it into the policies across the area as well. So it's a complicated issue, and we're trying things and learning things. So hopefully that kind of answers the question, but it's, I suppose, simple answer is giving people information and empowering them to make decisions.
Absolutely. And I think citizen engagement sits right at the heart of it, because I think at some point what was mentioned that is absolutely important. That brings us to the next question from Tasnim Rangwala, that he's asking you that, can you please explain the charcoal filtration system? How often does they need, or do they need to be replaced, or how cost effective they are, basically?
Unfortunately, I can't really give an answer to this. We were still designing it as I was leaving. So we knew, so for the Manchester Drive system and some of the other sites where we're looking to treat the water for reuse, the plan was to put series. So the water would go through suds, it would go through the mycelium bags, it would then go through like slow sand filters, UV filters, and then the charcoal filters. And then we'd measure the quality of the water at each stage, so we could see what was working well, what was not working well, was it cost effective? So unfortunately, I can't answer that, but we were aware that this kind of the sand filters and the charcoal filters we'd have to design the system around those because they like a kind of constant slow flow. So that's all about managing it upstream a bit and using storage and kind of controlled release. So yeah, something to be learned, but something we're kind of looking at. So hopefully that will come out when we kind of build it.
That's interesting, because if there are people here who attended this year's drainage conference in Delft, there were a lot of discussions and sessions around experimental latest innovations around different types of filtration system, including charcoals. I would like to draw the attention of participants, if they are interested, get back to ICD conference that held this year in Netherlands, and around the papers innovations around happened and presented by attendees in that conference. It was interesting to listen to some of those. And also I dropped the link to the Catchment to Coast Project's website in the chat if somebody is interested to further look at what Tom just explained about the project. And the next question is from Gabriella Dotra. It's about I think possibly around Bentley Creek, that she's asking that whether the wetlands are the sewage treatment works but do not actually treat the sewage. There was a confusion. Is the highway runoff running on a separate conveyance system then? And if so, why place them at the sewage work?
Yes, and again, yes, sorry, I glossed over that quite quickly. So the sewage treatment works at Benfleet, so it has kind of two inputs. So under normal conditions, there's the sewage in a separate system. There are obviously misconnections, so there is some surface water in that, but then that goes into the works where it's treated. I'm not an expert on the things they've got, but they put it through a load of systems, filtrations and things, and then it goes into the creek in its kind of treated form. Lots of permits around that from the Environment Agency to make sure it is of appropriate quality to put in. However, when and also I should say that the surface water sewer then goes through the same system, because the pipes are next to each other. Basically, it's easy to put it in there. That goes to the sewage treatment works, and it goes into a settlement tank, and then just overflows into the creek as well. But then when there's a big storm, Anglian Water around the site are able to discharge higher rates into the creek. So a lot of the sewerage, we don't know the details on the proportions. I understand one of my colleagues has got the data, but some of that is allowed to flow into the creek because there's so much coming in, it would overwhelm the treatment system. So what goes into the system, the system takes its maximum treatment amount, and then the rest goes out. And by having the surface waters kind of flow there as well, which usually at the same time has a high flow on it too, they're mixed together, so it reduces the concentration of the sewage going out into the creek. So the goal, obviously, surface water runoff is not the best quality water in the world. So just having settlement and then release is, there's lots of conversations going on about highway runoff and things like that, and misconnections too. So the goal of that is to see how nature-based solutions can, so it's kind of like suds almost in a way, but in a different location. So it's combining it in the sewage treatment works. And we're very fortunate Anglian Water have committed to upsizing what works on site actually, and look at other sites too, for kind of the highway and the surface water systems, which is really good. So yeah, hopefully that explains. It's a bit complicated.
Provides a double treatment to make sure the water gets discharged. It's going to be treated naturally. No, absolutely. And I suppose this is the last question for you as I monitor the chat, and then I hand over to Suresh to ask questions for Lakendra. What's the volume this is from Adeni, I hope I pronounced it correctly. What's the volume of rainwater were you able to store during that rainy period?
So it varies quite considerably across the different sites, but basically we're designing all the sites, and they're kind of just going through the detailed design process at the moment. So I haven't got specific figures or even ranges, I'm afraid, but as much as we can is the simple answer. I suppose we're looking to get as much storage as possible. through the systems to basically reduce the flood risk. But then it also, by capturing the most water as possible, it's more you can get better measurements in terms of how effective the treatment is by passing more water through the system. So it's, again, as I mentioned, it's kind of the wrong way around, in that we're kind of just designing the biggest thing we can, and then we're putting all the flow monitoring, water quality monitoring on afterwards, and then learning from it. So we will be doing modeling at the back end of the project to quantify the kind of all of the benefits using the real world data we've collected, rather than the other way around, doing some modeling saying this is what we think it will do and then building it and not really checking. So but yeah, again, that doesn't really answer the question, but that data will come out sort of towards the end of the project, which I will just quickly say before we go on to further questions. So it's a 6-year project, started in 2021, so we're kind of halfway through. The funding from the Environment Agency ends in 2027. So we're looking to kind of use the last year, 18 months to kind of process the learning. And then obviously the DEFRA and EA will process that going onwards. But there's already a bit of talk about extending the project potentially to monitoring things even further, because a lot of the nature-based solutions won't become fully effective in the next couple of years. So we're hoping we'll get a bit more money to do that. And Southend and Thurrock have already kind of committed a bit internally too to keep that monitoring going, which is really good. So hopefully the learnings will continue.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Tom. Suresh, over to you. I think the questions from Sheila starts from here for Tom.
I'll start from you. Thank you, Mariam, for taking the questions, and Tom, thank you for giving responses. Now to Lokendra. Lokendra, I have a question from Shailaja Singh. The question is that how many wetlands are we targeting in Madhya Pradesh, and what is the minimum size of the wetland, and are we targeting small size wetlands or only big size wetlands?
I didn't hear your first sentence. You're saying targeting which
How many
size
wetlands are being targeted in Madhya Pradesh, and what is the minimum size of the wetland? Are we targeting small wetlands also or only big ones?
No, I mean, a target is to, there are two things. Number one is that to comply with the order of the Supreme Court as far as the demarcation, ground truthing, and delineation of the boundaries of the wetland is concerned. So that we have to do for all the 15,000 wetlands that are bigger than the 2.25 hectares, okay. Number one. But this is a huge ask. 15,000 wetlands. MP is the second largest state in terms of geography. So about how much? 300,000 square kilometers of area of the state of Madhya Pradesh, which is huge. I mean, even these compliance would be a huge ask, but this would be done as it's an order of the Supreme Court. But for conservation, that is most. This is the first step of knowing how many wetlands we have. This is not the final sort of step. This is the first step to understand how many wetlands do we have in the state. But the major challenge is how many we are able to actually conserve. And that is where we have to involve variety of stakeholders. I was just thinking while presenting that, like, take the example of the wetland of which I spoke a little bit in detail about in today's presentation. This wetland, there are 10 departments like forest, agriculture, fisheries, municipal corporations, drinking water supply, tourism, sports, horticulture, aquaculture. These all departments are drawing direct benefits from the wetlands, but they do not contribute in terms of the conservation. So this is a huge ask. Wetland is it's a very multifaceted, multi-stakeholder, multidisciplinary kind of a subject. And biggest stakeholders are community. So all these, the challenges, how we involve all these stakeholders and make them responsible, also take responsibility for conservation of these wetlands. This is one, but the 15,000 wetlands, which is again a big task.
So thank you, Lokendra. I would like to take the second question. It's by Adni Okebena. The question is, how often is the water quality of the catchment monitored, and is there a pollution control system in the catchment? If you can throw some light on this.
So water quality is monitored every quarterly. I mean, in every quarter, once in every quarter, there are sampling stations, and there are systems and protocols and standards given by the Central Pollution Control Board. And MP State Pollution Control Board is responsible for monitoring the water quality of all these important wetlands. But I can say that not all wetlands which we have in the states have a regular water quality program. What we're doing is that for the major, very important, ecologically important wetlands, we are having the health cards, and we know what is the current ecological health of these wetlands. The health card also includes water quality plus the kind of biodiversity we have. So this is what we're doing.
Good. Thank you. The third question I'll take is from Martina Santuki. Have you ever encountered issues with wetlands becoming a breeding ground for harmful insects such as mosquitoes? I know you said the water looks very clean and good, but
yeah, but in Bhopal, not in Bhopal, but in other small ponds, if they are not properly cleaned or maintained, and there are a lot of sewage and muck is coming, then the problem of mosquitoes is there. And in fact, if you look at, see the problem again, this is all interconnected. Come the what I can say to answer this question now, what I'll give you different information is that the malaria window is increasing in countries like India, and especially in our states, which is infested by parasites, mosquito. So the window, earlier the malaria was happening only in 5 to 6 months, but now it's happening also in 7 to 8 months. The windows have increased because temperature is rising. And once the temperature rises, water recedes, these small ponds become the breeding ground of mosquitoes. And therefore, dengue and malaria is one of the common disease, and lots of people are getting infected with these. So this is not only because of the wetlands, climate change also because of various other factors, but wetlands can also contribute to not properly maintained.
Good. Thank you, Lokendra. I have some questions from anonymous attendees and other people. We will, due to shortage of time, I will not be able to take those questions. But I would like, following up on the discussion in the Q&A, I wanted to take one question that I believe this project you mentioned was started in somewhere in 1990s. But it is usually considered that, for nature-based solutions, it's very difficult to raise funding. But I believe this is one good example where you have shown that, it's not the hardware thing, but you had raised funding from institutions like World Bank and other people. How did you manage this in 1990s and now? And it's
Yeah, this is, I mean, we must take pride in it that in early 1995 we were able to take loan from World Banks and the Japan Bank for International Cooperation. This also shows the political will of the government that to conserve their natural resources, we were willing to borrow loans from and very costly loans. They were 3 to 4% interest rates, which was not very simple. And this was the political will and the decision of the government. But if you would look at for grants, then it is a challenge. If you still, it's a challenge to. But other thing is that because of these climate change and because of the people losing their livelihoods, more and more agencies are now realizing that we need to look at nature-based solutions, and nature can really answer some of the questions raised by challenges like climate change. So for conservation of forest, conservation of wetlands, rivers, these have become very, very in thing. And now governments are thinking how to conserve these natural resources, assets, which can again work as a bulwark against climate change.
So I think, yeah, there is an ecosystem service. That's why you got the loan, and there was some returns. That's why you were able to justify. So a strong case is there that if you can put together a bankable project, there is a funding available.
Yes, absolutely.
I would say that
Absolutely.
there's funding available if you have a bankable project, and then because this was a loan, this was not a grant. So I think
Yes.
thank you very much, Lokendra. I think this is a very, very good. I'm actually running short of time. That's why I just want to keep in mind that. But I think that clearly shows that if nature-based solution and the projects are bankable, there is also loans available, and you have raised this loan back in 1995, and you are able to demonstrate that the wetland has been restored to quite an extent, and it plays an important role. 500,000 people still get water from the same storage which is available, and the storage, which is pretty clear, shows what is happening in the watershed, which you have been doing for 2 decades. I would stop here, and I would like to say, today we learned that it is important that to do innovation, to bring nature-based solutions in the mainstream, because they can not only play an important role in flood resilience and addressing the climate change impacts, but also they play an important role in situ water augmentation, and they can become, they help us achieve progress towards SDG 6. I think what is important is that it should not be just left to a few people, but it is everybody's business. That if we involve communities, we can have bankable projects. If we involve nature-based solutions, they can still be supported by funding agencies. I would like to thank all for joining today's webinar, and I would like to request my colleague to do a feedback poll. But before that, we would like to announce some upcoming IWA webinars. I hope you benefited from today's webinar and you would like to know about the forthcoming events. We have an event on advanced nanotechnologies for water purification. If you are interested, you should register. And next, please, we have the IWA Water and Development Congress and Exhibition in Bangkok in December 2025. Call for submission is open. So if you are interested, you should submit your contributions. Next, please. You can also join the network of water professionals. There is some discount code available, which is being displayed on the screen. So you are requested to take benefit of this generous offer from IWA to the attendees. So I take this opportunity to thank the IWA Secretariat. I thank Mariam Imani for joining me today to co-moderate, co-chair the session. I thank the people from IWA Secretariat. I can see Rachna. I can see other people. A lot of people have worked behind the scenes to market this webinar. And in particular, I would like to thank both the panelists who spared time from their busy schedules. Tom Palmer and Lokindra, thank you once again. Thanks to all attendees who have joined from different parts of the world. We had one point of time, more than 100 people who attended the webinar. And this is a very encouraging start of the first event of this alliance, and looking forward to seeing you in the future events. Thank you very much.